Hello, this is McMulligan back again with more Dark Souls. Today we're going to continue through, or start going through, the Painted World. Now, something to note from something I said last video when it came to Gwyn, basically saying that Gwyn was probably part of the reason this world even came to fruition. I'm pretty sure Priscilla was the reason, and he probably made this world as either a prison for her, or, but I really think he made it, to try to make an attempt at making a new basically world for everyone to live in. Utterly failing, as all the denizens of this place are incredibly violent, as you can see, and you will see some kind of messed up creatures here. For instance, you know this is one of the only two areas in the game, other than Blight Town, this is the only area in the game with toxin. At least as far as I know. I don't recall any other area in the game that has enemies that actually give the toxin status effect. Except for this one right here. Now, if you're wondering who that is, you're staring at them. So basically, these things are kind of dickbags. So, say you're in melee with them, and if you don't have a really good reaching weapon, they can mess you up. Like, really mess you up. Because they can proc toxin on you. Now, because of how I'm built currently, it's not too big of a deal. Because, like, as long as I melee one, wait for my thing to go down for a bit, I will not get toxined. But say you're, like, I don't know, like a knight kind of build, like you're wearing heavy armor, don't have much poison resistance or anything like that, man, they can mess you up quick. Like, real quick. The other thing to note is there's an enemy type here that's a little difficult to deal with, in the form of these, what could I call them? They actually had a name in Dark Souls 2, but I forget what it was. Well, they're essentially these bird people. They're kind of like little harpies, like really tall bird people. Actually, as again I said, I record my commentary in post. You're about to see me get wrecked by a few of them. Because I'm used to doing far more damage to them and actually being able to stagger them. And then one of them just kind of hops on my head and, you know, kills me, like, instantly. And that's the actual hard thing. Like, they're not too bad on their own. It's mostly the fact of that overhead ability, they can really mess you up with it. I was trying to remember where she actually hopped on my head at. I think it was right here. Oh yeah, it was that one, because they literally jumped over the wall. Yep, instantly killing me. Now, if you're at full health, you can actually survive that, but just because I had that little tick not on, it just straight up wrecked my ass. That being said, I think that's the only time I actually die in this section. I just wasn't prepared for it, to be honest. Like, you'll find that I mess up on occasion, especially considering I'm running a kind of build I don't normally do. Because either I'm like a full caster of some kind to the point where I'm so decked into intelligence I'll be like having a lot of sorceries, but then all at the same time I usually have pyromancies to kind of go with it, as well as some kind of lighter melee weapon enchanted with something that scales off one or the other. Moonlight Greatsword is always a favorite of mine. Really hard-hitting weapon, like really hard-hitting weapon. But that being said, you always want a backup weapon when it comes to doing some of those elemental types, because there's going to be some enemies that are just going to be like immune to magic, or like magic doesn't do shit to them. Which is why I usually supplement with pyromancies whenever I do anything like sorceries. That being said, I do have a bit of an interesting story to tell again from the D&D when it comes to the Painted World. So, you probably remember me talking about the Ice Dragon, or the Ice Dragonborn type deal that was in our party. Well, before then, that player was playing another character that I didn't mention because they weren't around for very long. There was basically this Monk Warlock. And they were... oh god. Okay, so basically they were trying to make a Jedi, but then they kind of ended up being a Sith kind of deal. So they had like this like magical energy sword, and So it was basically like monk warlock. So they had like the whole kind of force thing. They were using Eldritch Blast to like push and pull people towards or away from them off cliffs, stuff like that. But they ended up like taking on this vampiric ring that was slowly making them more and more vampiric until they basically lost their mind and was refusing to take it off. So they ended up switching to a new character when when it became too much, and that happened right as we entered the Painted World, because we basically visited the Cathedral of the Deep. And when we visited the cathedral, we decided to actually go to the other world. We popped open that bonfire, and we're basically there. And then we realized very quickly that a lot of the stuff in the area was kind of way too strong for us, so we retreated. But not before our vampiric person caught wind of a lot of blood and a lot of death and decided to go run off and consume blood, who we later found their corpse somewhere dead in the snowfields. Immediately after that, we ended up finding the Dragonborn who joined the party right after that little bloodbath happened. It was kind of brutal, kind of fucked up, but when you turn yourself into kind of a pseudo-vampire, that's what happens. At least, that's what happened in that scenario. This is why you don't mess with cursed items. And like RPGs like that, you just don't. You want to die. Tip for anyone who's like trying to get into like D&D or like D&D at all. If it's an item that's name has a Vecna anywhere in it, just don't. I am not kidding. You will kill your character. It'll be an item that's so insanely cursed that your character will either be straight up dead. They'll be so useless they might as well be the human equivalent of a Slim Jim, or a piece of cabbage. I don't know. Something that's like inanimate and kind of useless and probably edible at that point, because a lot of things probably eat human flesh. But at that point, you're going to be basic. You're going to be regretting your decision in either case, unless you're purposely wanting to kill off your character. Funny thing, actually, I had a friend who was constantly trying to kill off their character because they didn't want to tell the DM of that game that they really wanted to switch to a new character, so they were trying to kill their character. So at one point, they actually successfully basically got themselves killed, only for a god to come down and go, no, you need to continue to be and basically resurrects them. And meanwhile, out of character, he's just like, for fuck's sake. The one time he succeeded, it was essentially retconned. It's always funny when stuff like that happens. Honestly, though, he probably should have told his DM that he honestly wanted to play a new character, and they could have settled it right then and there, but I think he was, nervous about talking about it. Case in point, people, when it comes to running those games, be sure you can be forward with your DM about everything, because they run that game, they know everything in and out of the game. If you want to do something, let them know, because the point of those kinds of games is for everyone to have fun. Everyone. DM, players, everyone. That being said, don't be a dick to your DM. Also being said, DM, don't be a dick to your players. Because that street goes both ways. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You both sides of that party are there to tell a story together. I've known way too many DMs that basically have a story, and if anything deviates from what they have planned, they'll be like, no, or they'll get really angry or stuff like that. Don't do that. Let your players explore. Let them do things. Let them be able to change the course of the story. Because the story is going to end at some place that you have planned for in either regard. I mean, you run the fucking world. You can change things around and make it do certain things. But don't let your players' decisions be meaningless. Have them carry weight. A lot of weight. And show them that it carries weight. Remember, people, yes and, not no but. Anyway, I was definitely killing a bunch of rats. So you also saw that we got the Vesfuge eggs earlier. They're basically, if you remember the weird person with all the egg sacs on them down near Quaelag's sister. So there was I guess you could say. So those guys, basically that's an item you can use to say if you get infected with those eggs, remove it. But it's an item that was created by one of their followers, but it is now banned for probably obvious reasons. They kind of like to be one with those eggs. And this item right here, by the way, just while we're looking at it, offers such protection. Duty known through generations, but reason for doing so passed from memory long ago. Yeah, so basically these guys are the guardians of the painting for fucking millennia. But, like, the reason why they've guarded it is, like, basically lost to history. No one really knows why. I still think that they are probably guardians put there by Lord Gwyn himself, probably on the behalf of Priscilla, who we'll meet later in here. And I'm pretty sure Priscilla is the one who actually, like, painted this painting. Like, very much painted this painting. And made this, basically used some type of, I guess, magical paint with like some really powerful divine magic to create this alternate dimension that's basically this new warped world. There's also a lot of pyromancies located in this area for various reasons. It seems that there was a lot of new spells created here. I think it was just the fact of the nature of the painting she was drawing. She was essentially creating new magics, and well, I don't even think it was directly a cause from her. I think it was literally some of the denizens of this place, because they were basically pulled in different directions. Some were like really encased with fire, like we saw earlier, like the guys with the toxin sacks. They're also really encased with fire. So I imagine maybe some of them got together, was trying to pull apart like these pyromantic magic, and ended up creating their own in an attempt to do so. At least that's what I'd assume. We actually get a description later on that from one of the spells. It says it's like from an alternate land, but I'm pretty sure it was made here. At least as far as I know. Yeah, more of those birds. There's quite a few of them in this area. There's also that dragon over there. Oh. It's kind of only half of a dragon at this point. You'll see why soon. Well, probably in the next video, actually. Yeah, down here is just the door. That actually goes on to where Priscilla's at once you open it with the contraption. This fog gate actually leads you to the, I believe, where did this lead to? Ah, yes, this is the, this is the shortcut back. So, something interesting to note about this. This is a callback to a boss from Demon Souls, the Phalanx. Not as powerful as the Phalanx in Demon Souls, but they are still vulnerable to fire like the old one was. Granted, so I probably could. So I actually kind of fought these guys legit. I probably could have just hucked that Great Chaos Fireball and could have wrecked them, but I guess I just wasn't thinking about it because I was trying to like make sure that I don't know. I tend to not use my spells as much as I should. It's just something I've always been like in this game. It's like even when I have spells, like because like I guess that got ingrained into me after I played Dark Souls 2 a bunch because I played like a lot of like faith builds in that. And a lot of the offensive faith spells you got like almost no uses of because they nerfed it way too hard, like way too hard. Like they cut back its damage severely and then made it to where you could barely have any uses of any of them. And it was kind of an incredibly huge hindrance to like faith builds in the game. Like it would have been fine if they had just nerfed the damage. That's probably all they needed to do, but they nerfed it way too much. Because it just became kind of useless. Like other than for healing, there's literally no reason to be a cleric now in Dark Souls 2. Zero reason to commit to it at all. Yeah, see, like they basically are blocking that. The reason I ended up attacking twice there is because I ended up hitting the button twice by accident, like immediately, but for some reason the game saves the memory of you clicking the button for the combo even after it's already been deflected. Even though I really wish it wouldn't do that. Like, I really wish it wouldn't do that, because that's kind of annoying to deal with, especially when you're wanting to do something else. And then all of a sudden you're forced to have to basically swing again for some reason. But in either case, we survived. But yeah, definite callback to that game. Actually, this area was technically originally a test area for the assets of Dark Souls 1 itself, which is why it has all these kind of weird enemies going on. Like, that's the reason why the Phalanx was here, because they basically used it as kind of a test fight see if the mechanics still worked in this game compared to like Demon Souls. Made for an interesting area in either case, though. Yeah, and there's like a few different like offshoots of this area we can go into, but I am going to cut it off a little short before we go into those. Just due to the fact that I don't want this video to be like 50 minutes, like 40, 50 minutes long. Although, I do go to the side here in a minute after opening this to collect some items over there to the side real quick. Do I sit at the bonfire? No, I don't sit at it yet. Yeah, more of those bloody hollows. Now it honestly looks like Vlad the Impaler had went ham in this area. I mean, with all the spikes and undead. I'm just expecting a bleh to come out all of a sudden. I mean, to be fair, we are surrounded by undead. It wouldn't be like... I don't feel like it'd be beyond Dark Souls to have vampires be somewhere. Although, come to think of it, I don't think there's ever, like, we've never had mention of any vampires, like, or anything like that in Dark Souls lore. I think it's always been just a zombified undead, but never, like, that kind of undead. Hell, I don't even think we really have werewolves or anything. I mean, granted, they're in Bloodborne, and I've mentioned before that a lot of people theorize that Bloodborne is the, like, aftermath of the whole Dark Souls series, like, what happens after the Age of Dark and everything. Or at least what it eventually becomes, because the Age of Dark is the Age of Man. Which if you read deep into the lore, you'll end up learning that like, it's not like it's the end of the Age of Fire, but not the end of life. It just means that humans fully take on rule of the, I guess, world at that point. No longer being bound by gods. Yeah, this guy's kind of easy to kill. All he has is that little pyromancy. And I believe I can get his hat eventually, I just don't remember where. He has a whip here. Actually, I think it's like a chance that you can get his hat there or something, like when you kill him here. But it's kind of a lower chance. There's nothing interesting to read on the Watched Whip, just tells you what it does. It is effective against armor though, and will actually ignore some of like your armor defense when you're like hitting people with it. It's mostly a PvP weapon. I've seen people use them quite effectively though. Yeah, I was just looking for the hat there. But anyway, hope you all enjoyed this video. This has been McMulligan. Hope you all had a good time, and have a great day.